Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with another episode of Heaven on Earth. This past week, I've been present to a bunch of things. I've been reading a book by Gabor Mate called, oh goodness, have you ever had that brief moment? Yeah, you knew what you were going to say. All right, let's try that again. So, when the body says no, and the subtitle is the high cost of hidden stress. So as I've gone through that, I couldn't help to self-reflect on, well, what is stress like for me and what's been happening for me and so on. Well, at the same time, as I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, I remembered an old handout from probably 30 years ago that's titled Signs and Symptoms of Inner Peace. And I was kind of putting those two things together and thinking, I think stress, and especially hidden stress and chronic stress, has a great deal to do with a lack of inner peace. Well, of course, if my goal is heaven on earth, then I want to do something to move out of the stress into more inner peace. So I thought it would be fun to play with these specific signs and symptoms. Now, there are 9 of them. So I'm going to break them into 3 per session. We're going to do a 3-part series on this. So see as I go through them, if any of these resonate with you. I suspect that there's a lot of us in similar boats when it comes to wanting more inner peace, but finding challenges or roadblocks that prevent us from having it. So the first one that I picked, which related to certainly hidden stress, is worry. So here's the goal. The goal with inner peace is to be able to have a loss of the ability to worry. And I'm going, wow, I wonder how a person does that. Now, I'm happy to report that I don't worry nearly as much as I used to. I'd been a worrywart for most of my life, and particularly about things that I had no control over or things that I thought might happen and never did. It was just, and of course, the people around me, I'd fret about them. I'd worry about them. If their life wasn't going well, then I'm upset. And of course, it's none of my business what's going on with their lives, really. It's just that I care. And I don't like to see people in distress. So I'd worry about them. Well, it reminds me of a spy movie with Tom Hanks that came out a few years ago, the title of which I forget at the moment. Anyway, this foreign spy is in grave danger up on charges of spying and in grave danger of losing his life if he's convicted. And so the lawyer, played by Tom Hanks, is explaining this to him, and he's seeing no reaction. Like, the guy's deadpan. He's not showing any concern about this is a serious big deal. And so at one point, the lawyer says to him, well, aren't you worried? And the guy looked back at him and he said, well, would it help? And the lawyer's kind of taken aback and he says, well, no. So, but throughout the movie, this was kind of the recurring theme that because things got more and more dire and we're looking more and more bleak for this guy. And, well, aren't you worried? Well, would it help? No. So there's the watchword, right? So we ask ourselves the question when we get into the worry pit. And I started doing this a lot more with myself to say, well, is my worry going to fix anything, change anything, and most importantly, make me feel any better? No, it's not. none of that. I can't fix it. I can't make it any better. I can't feel any better if all I'm doing is worrying. So I thought, well, I feel as if it's important to do something. Well, if the person asked me about their particular issue that I was worried about and had really no business worrying about, and they were open to brainstorming and coming up with a solution, well, then I would weigh in and give my 2 cents, and then I could say, oh, okay, well, that's done. Or once in a while, somebody who was wiser than me at the time would say, oh, Sue, I've talked to them and they're just fine. Don't worry about that. And okay. And so I would grab onto that like a lifeline so that I didn't continue to worry. I guess the other thing that I do nowadays is I just beam light to the person. I think of the situation that they're in, and I just send it, you could call it happy thoughts, good vibes, light, whatever. I just imagine them immersed or bathed in golden light or white light to support them in whatever decisions they need to make or in getting through. And that seems to satisfy me because I've done something, and then I can set it aside and move forward with that. Because I've been pretty diligent about that, it took some effort to switch that out to, and it's an ongoing thing. I wish I could say, yeah, I've solved that, I've set that aside and so on, but no, I was worrying about something the other day and I'm going, oh, still in the worry pit. But it seems easier to climb out of it. And I don't seem to stay there so long, and I can get out faster. And sometimes it's just a reminder to myself, because I practiced getting out of the pit and getting out of the pit and getting out of the pit. What can I do instead? So it's better now. It's easier now. So more often than not, I have been able to lose my ability to worry. So I don't worry as much. And as a result, I have more inner peace. I'm more peaceful about the people that are surrounding me, what's going on in the world. And let's face it, the state of the world these days, well, we could succumb to a huge dose of worry. Here's the exercise I was given years ago about worry, and this has helped too. What you do is you pick your favorite chair, and maybe you want to get all fancy and buy those stanchions and the velvet rope, and you rope off this chair so that you can't access it except one day of week. And in that, at that particular time on a particular day of week, let's say Thursday at 5 p.m., that's when you get to sit in that chair. Well, what is this chair? It's your worry chair. So from Friday through to 3 o'clock on the following Thursday, what you're going to do is every time you think about something that's worrying you, like you notice that you're worrying about something or someone, whatever, you get out a pen and a piece of paper and write it down. This is your worry list. And then you just set the list aside and you keep adding to the list throughout the week. Oh, I need to worry about that. Oh, I need to worry about that. Oh, I need to worry about that. And then on Thursday, you sit in your worry chair at the appointed time and you pick up your list and you look at the first one on the list and you proceed to worry about that. And then when you've felt you've spent enough time worrying about that first one, then you go on to the next one, and then you go on to the next one, and you go on to the next one. Now, there's an interesting side benefit to this. It's much more efficient than worrying willy-nilly throughout the week, because maybe you're involved in something that's very happy and very productive, and this worry comes sweeping in and throws you off kilter. So you can't focus on what it was you were just doing. But if you say, no, I'm not worrying about that right now, that's for Thursday. And so then you write it down, and then you get it off your plate right then, and you go back to enjoying whatever you were doing. So it's a much more efficient way, and you're only allowed 20 minutes. So you say, okay, well, I'm not going to spend all day and all night worrying about it. I mean, how many of you, like me, have had sleepless nights because of something that was pressing on our brains, and we were worrying about it and worrying about it? Couldn't do a thing about it at 2 a.m, but we're still fretting, we're still upset. Oh boy, that, now talk about no inner peace. That would do it right there. So you do this worry chair exercise. Well, it doesn't take very long. When you look down your list, okay, now I'm going to worry about item number 2. Oh, I don't have to worry about that one. It resolved itself. Scratch it off the list. On to number 3. Oh, that one didn't happen either. Scratch. By the time you get to the end of your list, chances are pretty good that at least 75 to 80% of them you never have to worry about. You don't have to worry about. It's not an issue. Either it didn't occur, or something else happened that changed whatever you thought you needed to worry about, or the person resolved the issue on their own, or you had a conversation with someone, and what you thought was going to be a big blow up turned out to be a very heartfelt, intimate sort of conversation. So most of our worries and our fears in that regard have no basis in reality. They're just things that come to us. It's like a story we make up, and we think, oh, well, I'm just bound and it's my duty to worry about this. And I mean, parents are, we're great at worrying about so many things all the time, and especially if we're new parents, then we have lots that we think we need to worry about because we don't know how to be parents. We weren't taught. Nobody taught us how. So we stumble and bumble along, and we're afraid, oh my goodness, we're going to damage our children terribly if we don't do this, that, or if we don't get it, or whatever. So yeah, there's lots out there that we can worry about. The sooner you can realize that, first of all, the damage that kind of stress results when you worry all the time. I mean, it is not good for our physiological makeup, because chronic stress, which is ongoing, consistent stress that triggers things like uncertainty, that triggers our feeling of helplessness or maybe hopelessness. Well, when we get way deep down into that pit, those signals send nasty things to the body, and the body doesn't cope well with it. It compromises our immune system. It keeps us on high alert with chemicals that were never meant to be constant in our bodies, the fight or flight, like adrenaline and cortisol. They're meant to be emergency, temporary kinds of surges to help us out of trouble. But if they sit in our tissues, they do damage. And so if you're constantly triggered into fight, flight, or freeze, it's not healthy. Well, that's hell on earth as far as I'm concerned. So worry is a big part of that. So I really want to challenge you to think about what you worry about. And if the worry chair is a fun idea that you want to give a try, and test it out and let me know if it's as I say, because I did that, and sure enough, my worries were unfounded, that they had no basis in reality. So it was easier to let them go. So that's the first of the signs, I guess the first sign or symptom of inner peace that I wanted to talk about today. The second one, let me just read this here. Contented feelings of connectedness to others and to nature. So contented feelings of connectedness to others and to nature. Well, that describes community very well to me. I was having a conversation with a community that I belong to called Groundswell University. We were talking about community, and I got thinking about taking the word apart. So the first part of the word was commune. Well, when I think of communing, particularly with nature, I know how much nurturing I get when I go for a walk and I look at the flowers on the path. I see the leaves just gently swaying in the breeze. The ducks are on the pond. I can hear the flies buzzing and so on. See the little ants on the path heading with something to go back to the nest. All of these kinds of things. I find that it lifts me up. It kind of fills my soul to be in nature, the sun shining down, or even standing in the rain, doesn't really matter. Walking on the beach, doesn't matter what kind of nature it is to me. I find it very nurturing, and I feel more connected. I feel more grounded to Mother Earth when I'm out in nature. So the more opportunities we give ourselves to commune with nature, I think, because we are part of nature, right? I mean, it's not just, well, we're in here and it's out there. We're part of nature. So to be able to get close to it and draw on the energy from nature, and to through appreciation give back to nature is pretty special. The same thing with connectedness of other people. These days, I'm well surrounded by like-minded people who really lift me up, who are there as great supporters, people I can go have fun with, share a laugh with, do different things with, be inspired beside. There's just so many things. We're not meant to live in isolation. We are meant to live surrounded by people that we care about and who can care about us in turn. Now, sometimes we have people in our lives who come in for other reasons, to be catalysts for us to move to a different place or whatever, that might be toxic for us. Well, if that's the case, you might want to explore how to have those people find other people to connect with, so that they're not part of your sphere. We're not always going to get along with everybody. That I don't see that as a possibility. We're always going to have differences and resonate differently with each person. If you can, for the most part, surround yourself with people who get you, who understand where you're coming from and what's important to you, they like similar things to what you like, then it makes it way easier for you to be able to have that sense of connectedness with them. I feel blessed in that regard, and doing these videos every week helps me feel connected to all of you, even though there's a lot of you I suspect I've never met and will not meet in person. But there's just that ability to share some of me with you, to kind of forge that connection. So number three, an increasing tendency to let things happen rather than make them happen. Well, I've always been very much a doer. Being a human being has been difficult for me, but a human doing, well, I learned how to do that young. So I bought into all of those sayings, one of which was, well, if it is to be, it's up to me. So I felt as if I needed to just take on the world and do whatever was necessary to make things happen. I had some level of success. There's no question about that. But you know as well as I do that there are lots of things in life that we don't have any control over. Try as we might to fit something into something and make it work in some way, and it just doesn't. So it leads to failure, and I've had a lot of those where I thought I was so sure that was going to work, and another failure, and I'm, oh boy, now what? Well, so the notion of allowing things to happen was not really in my consciousness. I didn't think that that was possible, first of all. And secondly, I didn't quite trust that if I just turned it over to the universe, that the universe would provide me with what I wanted. And so, oh no, I better do something here. You know, I better meddle with with the whole process here. Over time, I have learned very in a variety of ways to allow things to happen, to just put the idea out there of what my heart's desire was, because that is the part that we're responsible for, to say, okay, this is what I want. What isn't our job? It isn't our job to know how that's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what the dynamics or the makeup of it is. It's just to say, well, this is what is important to me. This is what I want. And then to wait and see, well, what happens. I mean, obviously, there's parts that only I can do in physical form, but there's an energy in the universe that's going on that we can't know about, that can put the pieces together in such a way that it presents us with this beautiful thing that we said we wanted, in such a way that we go, wow, I never envisioned that. I'll give you a little example. Many years ago, my husband and son and I were needing to move. Our landlord was selling the house and out from under us, and we had to find a new place, and we didn't have long. The vacancy rate in our area was low, 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 low. So I'm constantly scouring the newspaper, our little local publication, and looking on every source I could think of, you know, looking around the community, is there a for rent sign, and so on. It was getting pretty desperate. We only had maybe a couple of weeks left, and I was at my wit's end. Talk about worry. So I woke up not being able to sleep, and I had finally, I just surrendered it. I thought, well, all of my efforts have come to naught. I don't know what to do next. So then I just sent up a little prayer, and I says, well, it was more of a demand. I said, okay, God, I've done my best here, and nothing's working. So you figure it out. You know what we need. Find us a place. And here's the deadline. So that's not exactly how I learned to pray when I was little, but anyway, that was what I did. And then I went back to bed, and then in the morning, I hadn't had a chance to look at the local paper the night before. So before I started my day, I'm thumbing through and went to the for rent ads. Well, here's this house, and I'm going, oh my goodness. Well, of course, by this time I've decided that, well, we could probably rent a storage locker and jam the rest of what we most needed into a tiny apartment, and somehow make it work for a few months until we could find something else, or the market eased or whatever. So my sights are low, like my expectations of a place are low at this point. We go over to see this house. Well, there were people already looking at the house who were in the basement talking to the landlady. We came in on the top floor. There were people behind us, and I'm going, oh, what are the chances she's going to pick us? Anyway, we have this little interview. Within 48 hours, she phones and said, the place is yours. Well, this little house couldn't have been more ideal. It had everything in it that I had ever wanted in a house. It was move-in ready. It was kept up very, very well. It had a nice garage and a nice little yard, and on and on and on. And I'm going, well, this is better than I thought we were going to get. And so then, of course, I'm showing my appreciation to God after that, to say, okay, thank you so much for this, because I never expected, out of the worry and the flurry and the pressures of trying to find this place, knowing what I knew in reality. But of course, I didn't know enough. I couldn't see enough what was coming up. but the universe did, you know. So the everything just pulled together, and there we had our place. So, and the, I guess the side note of the story is we were able to buy that place because the landlady wanted to sell at some point, and so then it became ours. Well, it was such a cool story, and when I think back, I didn't need to worry. There was a connectedness with God and the universe that I had not paid that much attention to, but when I did, what we needed was right there. So that gave me another sense of inner peace, and an opportunity to practice that and try that on more and say, well, maybe I don't have to be so fiercely independent and always push, 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 get in there, work, work, work to make things happen. Maybe if I step back and allow, and I'm willing to receive the best of what I want, it'll be there for me. Well, it has proved itself over and over and over again. So I'm a convert now. I'm more likely to just, I'll do my part, but then I'll step back and say, okay, the rest is up to the powers that be to make that all come together in the way it's meant to. I don't push anymore. I don't try to force anything. I just let it be. And the peace that comes from that, plus the joy and delight, because I'm so pleasantly surprised by how things turn out. I'm going, whoa, that was cool. So it works. So those are the three that I wanted to talk to you about today. So think about your own, how easily can you lose your ability to worry? That was the first one. Secondly, how much or how often, I guess would be a better way of phrasing that, do you have contented feelings of connectedness to others and to nature? Like, how does that show up for you? And third, do you have an increasing tendency to let things happen rather than to make them happen? Next week, we're going to cover 3 more, and we'll play with those and see what happens. You know, you're magnificent enough to move into more inner peace. So I'm going to encourage you to do that over this next week. In the meantime, if you'd like more Heaven on Earth videos or Tea with Sue videos, you can go to my YouTube channel, Sue Paulson, and find me there. I also have a free app that you can download if you're on a mobile device and you like to put in the earplugs and listen while you're walking. Then the app is called The Magnificence Mentor. It's a sign up, free sign up, free subscription that you can use to look at other content. There's also some written articles in there, and I've started adding some of my podcasts so that it's just audio as well. Lots of choices. And one final thing, I every now and again, I mention the Magnificence Lab that Chris Angel and I are co-creating. We're getting closer and closer to launching. If you would like to know a little bit more about the Magnificence Lab, you're a heart-centered change maker, and the idea of it intrigues you, you can find out more on our information video. Just go to magnificencelab.org. And I think it's /invite. You'll find the little intro video there. There's an application. Plus, there's a podcast button that has recorded all of the podcasts that we've done about the Magnificence Lab. So all those options for you to get even more engaged than you already are. Have an awesome weekend. It's Friday. Oh goodness, the last Friday of July. I can hardly believe it. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take good care, my magnificent ones.